into the ark. For thee have I seen righteous before men in this generation. Of every clean beast thou shalt take thee by sevens, the male and female, and of the beasts that are not clean by two, the male and female. Of fowls also of the air by sevens, the male and female, to keep seed alive upon the face of all the earth. For yet 7 days, and I will cause it to rain upon the earth for 40 days and 40 nights, and every living substance that I have made will I destroy from off the face of the earth. And Noah did according to all that the Lord commanded him. And Noah was 600 years old when the flood waters was upon the earth. And Noah went in, and his sons, and his wife, and his sons' wives with him into the ark, because of the waters of the flood. Of clean beasts, and of beasts that are not clean, and of fowls, and of everything that creepeth upon the earth. There went in two and two unto Noah into the ark, the male and the female, as God had commanded Noah. And it came to pass after 7 days that the waters of the flood were upon the earth. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, the 17th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of the heavens were opened. And the rain was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. And the selfsame day entered Noah and Shem and Ham and Japheth, the sons of Noah, and Noah's wife and the 3 wives of his sons with them into the ark. They and every beast after his kind, and all the cattle after their kind, and every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth after his kind, and every fowl after his kind, every bird of every sort. And they went into Noah into the ark, 2 and 2 of all flesh, where is the breath of life. And they went in, male and female of all flesh, as God commanded him, and the Lord shut him in. Being a Christian is not an easy thing. Living your life is not an easy thing. It don't matter how small you are or how big you are or how much money you have or how rich or how popular, if you're an actor in Hollywood, if you're a pro athlete that's got all kind of endorsements. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter from where you came from. It doesn't matter who you're married to. It doesn't matter how much you got in your bank account. It doesn't matter how much you don't have in your bank account. We all go through storms. Every bit of us. You cannot buy yourself out of a storm. Some people think they can, but more likely they're just prolonging what's coming. You cannot go to a human being and beg yourself out of a storm. You cannot do anything without God to get through it. When we are facing a storm, no matter how small it is, well, what do you mean? Well, let's say you was going to work tomorrow morning and you run over something, you got a flat tire. Depending on where you're at. If you're on the side of I-85, especially going southbound, that's a storm. Because you really don't want to be, when you're pulled over, you really don't want to take that chance of getting out there and changing the tire without somebody hitting you. You want somebody to help protect you. You call the 911 or a sheriff's office, whatever it may be, and out towards Gwinnett and out towards Atlanta, they got these hero units. They'll come right there and help change that tire for you. But they'll park their vehicles behind you to protect you. That's a little storm, but it's big at that time. You're going to go through storms that you might have just an unexpected bill pop up this month. I don't know. Maybe you had 2 doctor visits back to back, emergency room visits back to back, that you're going to have to come up with some kind of money extra. That's a storm. You're going to be worried about where you're going to get this money. Am I going to be able to eat next week? Am I going to be able to eat lunch? Am I going to be able to live my life on a normal? It doesn't matter if your storm, how big or how great, but at that moment is huge. Now, some people have bigger storms in life than others. Health problems, death of a family member, marriage on the rocks. Maybe it's God dealing with you, wanting you to lead your life in the ministry or doing a Sunday school, and it's just Satan's just pounding on you. Everybody has storms. There is nobody sitting here except for maybe these kids that hasn't never had a storm. But I promise you, before these kids have grown older, they will go through storms. That's just part of life. It don't matter if you're going to go through a storm and people, a lot of people look at it, well, that person right there, they must have done something really bad for God to do that to them. Really? We just got through reading about Noah. And Noah went through the biggest storm that has ever been on this earth. It was so big, it killed everything. It drowned them. But God found Noah righteous. Just because you're going through a storm, just because you have something that's lingering and pounding on you, doesn't mean you've done anything wrong. Look at Job. He went through a lot. But let me tell you about God. What did God do with Noah before the flood? He prepared him. He gave Noah instructions. He gave Noah a plan. He told Noah directly to him, this is what I want you to do. What did Noah do? Okay, Lord, I'll do it. Even though he's going to look like a blooming idiot to the rest of the people around that city. His family's just going to look like they're outcasts because he's building this huge ark. I've never read that Noah was a carpenter. But God gave him the ability to do what he needed to be done. He gave him the instructions. He gave him what he needed. He told him what kind of wood and everything, all the way down to the detail of having 3 stories to that ark. He told him how to build it. And all we have to do sometimes is listen to the instructions God gives us when we go through storms. God gives us the ability to do what he has been instructed. But sometimes we go through life and we're thinking, how in the world can we do this? How in the world can I get through this? How in the world can I go saying, if I pay this bill, I can't pay that bill? Well, honey, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't know if someone might just come up to you and say, hey, God leading me to give you this. Okay? We have to have that kind of faith in God. When Noah was building that ark, he had to have faith in God that he was going to do what he said he was going to do. You have to have the strong faith. You can't be 1 foot in and 1 foot out. You can't do that with God. You have to be all the way in. Because, Miss Vicki, I'm going to use you as an example. When you were learning piano lessons or however you learned it, if you just paid attention halfway, would you have the ability you have today? No, you wouldn't be able to. You had to commit. When you were in school, you had to commit to doing your studies. You had to commit to doing the homework, to study, to be able to pass the test that the teacher gave you. The teacher just doesn't come up to you and say, here, first day of school, there's your test. If you fail this test, you fail this grade. They don't do that. But they prepare you through the whole year before the end of the year. That way, when you get to take the test, you'll be prepared for it. And that is what God does with us. We sometimes forget that we are His children. We sometimes forget that we thinking that He's just hurting us. No. Have y'all ever seen somebody and they're just so down and out, and it just seems like you don't understand how they could be so happy? Steve, I'm going to use your mom as an example. Here this little lovely lady is in a wheelchair. You sit up here in the choir, you'll see her sing every song we sing. You'll see her raise her hand when she can. She's praising God to her best of ability. But if you was to look at her, you're like, well, you know, what has God done for her? Evidently, He's done a lot. I'm sure she's had storms. Who hasn't? Listen, if God would accept half in or half out, do you really think that Jesus would have came and died on that cross for us? You have to be all the way in with God. Have to. How else are we going to get through the storms? You have to be able to do whatever it takes to get through this storm. You're not alone. I know sometimes when we have these storms that it just seems that it affects me. It might be a storm at work that just the boss is hounding you, or you're just having a bad week, a bad couple of weeks, or you're having to deal with a coworker that you really just gets all over your nerves, or whatever it may be. Or if you just having know you got motor issues with your car and you're trying to just wonder and worrying how you're going to get the money to pay for it. What about your wife? What about your husband? That's their storm too. Because you are one. You are one. Don't act like you're all alone. Men, don't act like you have nowhere to turn. If you have a wife, you have someone to turn to. You have someone to say, please pray for me. I need it. She should encourage you and lift you up, and the same vice versa. You should lift her up. You should pray for her. Give her encouragement. If you don't have a wife, if you don't have a husband, have a friend in Christ. Have someone that you can turn to in Christ and say, I need your prayers. I am having a tough day, a tough week, a tough year. I need your prayers. And that's why we are not alone in this world. We're not alone to see that everything we do is just going haywire and thinking that nobody else in this world understands anything you're going through. But you talk to somebody and they say, hey, you know, about 2 years ago I was in this spot, or 2 months ago, whatever it may be. I guarantee you there are people that have been there. But yet, it's on you. That storm is on you. When the storm is bearing down, when it's getting to be so unbearable, so just pushing you down emotionally, where it's getting you to where it's even affecting you physically. You can't eat, you can't sleep, you're just worried, you got a headache, you've done worried so much. What am I going to do about all this? How am I going to get through this? How am I going to go through this? Pray to God. Noah, even though he was in the ark, he was still in the storm. God put him in the ark to protect him, but he still had to live his life. What do you mean by that? Well, he had to still feed the animals. He had to still clean out their stalls. He still had to make sure that nothing broke on the inside of the ark. If it did, he had to get it fixed. They had to feed their families. They didn't just stay there and not eat and everybody's happy-go-lucky for 40 days and 40 nights. No, there was things to do. Even though when the people outside were beating on the side of the ark, begging to get in, they couldn't let them in. Let me tell you something. We all know this. Some more than others. Storms can be horrible. Horrible. Heartbreaking. Emotionally. Physically. Have you ever woke up and you wonder, why did I wake up? Why do I need to live this day? Have you ever woke up and wonder, how am I going to live today, tomorrow, next week? How am I going to start my life over? I've lost my loved one. We all have that. Some more than others. But there is no one in this room or watching on this online that has never went through a storm. No one has ever went through something that it seems that they could not bear. There's going to be plenty of storms in your life. It might last 40 days, 40 minutes, 40 hours, 40 months, 40 years. I do not know. But I do know that God will put you in a place where you can get through this storm. There is a lot of times that we can't see past our hands. When we hear the rain coming down, the thunder, and all we can hear is that deafening sound of a rainstorm, and it's just hitting the tin. And have y'all ever been in a barn or somewhere, and it just comes a downpour to where you can't hardly hear somebody speak from right here? We all go through that. Man, we have so much more in common with each other than we realize. So much more. We understand each other if we would let each other. But I'm going to tell you something. Thank God for that storm. What do you mean by that? Well, thank God that He's protecting you. Thank God that He's with you. And thank God that He gave you the instructions to go through it. Thank God for preparing you for it. I don't know your storm, but God does. I don't know your pain, but God does. I don't know your thoughts, your heart. God does. God knows your heart. God knows where you stand with Him. He knows whether you're His or His child, or you are not His child. You can't be both. You're one or the other. Maybe God's been knocking on your heart for so long that it's got almost like a white noise in your ear. Thank God for the storm. Thank God for giving you the life to get through this storm. Thank Him for giving you your home, your family, your job, your shirt on your back, the food you eat. Thank God for everything, for every single day you've ever breathed. When you get up in the morning, thank Him for that first breath. When you go to bed at night, thank Him for that last breath you're about to have when you're awake. There is something always to be thanking God for. Even though when that storm is coming down and all you can hear is the noise and the horrors of the storm, of the lightning, the flashing, and it just scares you to death, keep your eyes focused on God. He will get you through. He will be there for you. The storms are a test of mental toughness and physical. When you turn to God and say, Lord, help me through this storm, He will do it. He's not going to back off from you. I don't know how many folks here has ever been tested this way, but have you ever been tested to the point that you emotionally don't know whether to be happy, sad, angry, or depressed or anything? You're just dull to that point. You don't know how to feel. You feel like even when you touch something, you're not touching anything. That's a bad place to be, because you can't have any emotion, it seems like. Thank God for the 40 days and the 40 nights. Thank God for having a relationship with your wife or your husband. That is why it's so important. It is so important to have that relationship built on Jesus Christ. That way when storms come, you're still standing on the rock. That's all it has to be. That's all it can be. And let me tell you something. When I went and saw and looked at back in, was it 20 or 21 we went? You remember? Anyway, a few years ago, we went up to Kentucky to see the Ark. Man, that thing is so amazing. If you get a chance, go. I encourage you. But there was one thing that when I looked at it from end to end, that surprised me. There is no rudder. Well, why is that surprising? Well, here you go. Knowing good and well, God gave Noah the instructions on how to build this ark. Do you not think that Noah did not realize somewhere down the road that this thing had no steering at all? So when we're in the storm as Noah was, let God guide us. Let Him put His hand upon us and guide us to where we need to be, instead of us trying to being like a little paddle boat and trying to steer the Titanic. It don't work that way. We have to let God be the rudder of our arks. There's a lot of things in this world that we don't know. God knows where the wind will blow. God knows where the tide will take you. God knows when the storms come, when they end, when they're going to come again, if they ever do. It's not hard for God to guide us. We just have to let Him. And it's okay to be scared. It's okay to be tired. It's okay to be emotionally drained. It's okay to be crying. But it's not okay to give up on God. You cannot do that. You have to trust Him and be thankful for everything that He's done for you. God has done so much for our lives that we really do not realize. When we was down in Florida,